Hey everyone, it's Jordy from Seven Eagle. Today I am so honored to have with us Toby Borcoman from NuVasive, a spinal implant company based out of San Diego. Toby is their recruiter on staff. He's been with them in a consulting role for about 7 years and now works with them full time. And I wanted to have Toby on today because he's not only a U.S. Navy veteran, he was Special Forces with them. I assume a job seeker yourself when you got out of the Navy, but now he's on the other side of this. He's the one who you need to impress if you want to get hired at a company like NuVasive. So Toby was kind enough to come on and just share some of his favorite tips, some strategies, pitfalls, some things that you guys should be aware of. So Toby, thank you so much. I hope I got everything right about your bio there. Please correct me if you want to add anything.
No, absolutely. That is correct. And, I'm honored to be on with you. The veteran community is something I'm passionate about. I think veterans have, some of the best job skills, in the world, just basically ingrained into them just from working, so many different jobs within the service. When you're in the service, you can say your rating is machinist mate or air traffic controller, but you're actually doing more than just what your position labeling is. I think veterans can really help so many different companies. And my job is to go out and, find veterans and engage them. And so when I'm a veteran, when I got out of the service, I basically told myself, I sat down, like, what do I want to do? What skills from the military do I want to use? And I started my own consulting business and got into recruiting. And that's how I gravitated to NuVasive. And, my career really took off when I built myself up to the point where I could get on with a company like NuVasive. I think as you transition out of the military, officers, enlisted, guys and gals, using that, that hunger and that passion to succeed, that drive is going to take you, to some great places. I think I'm a prime example of that.
That's awesome. I love that you sort of started your own thing too. And that's a great route. When you agree, for a lot of people, hey, you don't want to go the corporate route, start your own thing. You have that drive, that initiative, that attitude. You'll make it work if you find something you're passionate about.
Absolutely. And so many veterans, I think, as they're transitioning out, they think, well, maybe I should stick with the government, or, because there's a lot of jobs out there, the fire department and the police forces of the world, are veteran friendly. But I always recommend to veterans, look for the companies that are really trying to start veteran initiatives. Those are the companies that want you and want you to succeed in your career, to progress. Again, we'd be a prime example of that. We're not the only company on the planet that do that. That would be where I start my search. Look at those companies that are trying to make a move.
That's great. Tell us about like corporate at NuVasive. I mean, like, why do you feel they're supportive to your efforts to bring on more veterans and start this?
I think my company in particular does a phenomenal job of really looking at the individual skill set. So we don't pigeonhole people into, this is all you're going to be doing. My position has shifted from a recruiter to a sourcer to engaging in the military community, just because I'm passionate about it. I love companies that have that corporate flexibility. A lot of companies, you get put into a position, that's your 9-to-5 job. I think a lot of veterans like myself that, need that kind of spread your wings feel. This kind of company is absolutely what I would recommend.
That's awesome. Talk about now, let's talk about what are some of the things that really impress you when you have a job opening, you're looking to fill it, you're getting applicants, you're reaching out to veterans. What are some of the things at the top of your list that stand out and say, wow, this woman, this guy, this is awesome. I gotta talk to them.
The service experience is obviously what is very desirable, and there's different levels of service. Obviously officers and then enlisted are a little bit different, but any awards while you're in the service, talking to those points, like, this is, I was in the military, that's great, but what did you succeed at in the military? How was your personal evaluations? Those are something I bring up, that's done yearly in the military, how you're performing as a soldier, guy or gal. But when you come and present yourself, going above and beyond, coming prepared with your extra copies of your resume, extra talking points, getting to the interview early. I mean, these are all, military, should be ingrained into every military veteran, in my opinion. But, over the years, so many times I've interviewed folks that are just unprepared. I was like, and military is all about preparation. And that's exactly what a great interview is.
Right. Just easy, basic stuff, but you got to stay focused and be prepared. As you're talking, I'm thinking like a veteran interviewing with you has a big advantage because you understand where they're coming from. You're from the community, but talk a little bit about the likelihood of it being a veteran on the other end of that table is slim. So to really make your presence more civilianized, don't go in there with acronyms and military jargon.
Right. I've been out for, over a decade now. So I think I've transitioned a little bit more to the civilian side, and it's more of a breath of fresh air to hear the military side again. All of us have terrific memories of being in the service, those that have transitioned out. I've got memory after memory that I love to engage with folks. I ran into, an old friend of mine just by chance a couple years ago, and we were at just kind of a career fair, and I was like, oh my God, and then talking about the Gulf and Kosovo and things like that. But that to me, so when a veteran presents themselves, I'm already excited. I'm like, oh my God, this person's a veteran. I don't give them an advantage in terms of, their potential employment, but, I'm all ears to hear about their experiences.
Right. But to still be aware that you might not be sending that resume to a veteran, and don't assume, like I had a guy yesterday, I asked him what he did in the military, and he starts in with the acronyms, and I was in this division, and I was like, listen, you gotta tone that down. The civilian, it's gonna go right over their head, and they'll automatically think he can never be in our workforce because all he's doing is talking in military jargon.
Exactly. And I recommend to veterans, as they're looking at positions, you can, kind of intertwine your military experience with that position. So if I'm Toby Borcoman looking at, say, we have all sorts of engineering opportunities, like, well, when I was a machinist mate or an engineer in the military, this is something I did similar. This is an experience I did not have going in that I overcome in the to this position as well. That's I think a really good, candidate route to take, if you will, kind of intertwining your experience instead of talking, gung-ho sergeant talk. You might not be speaking to a vet like myself. That's absolutely correct.
Right. Good point. What are some of your favorite suggestions for people if they do reach the interview stage with you? What are some of the things they should be saying, not saying?
For me, I always tell folks to, nobody's perfect. I mean, that's the bottom line in this world. So come in with strengths and weaknesses you have and be candid about them and make it a talking point. Of course, your negative, you're going to want to turn into a positive. So like, hey, my weakness is, pre-chemical analytics or whatever the case is, but how are you getting better at that? What's your strategy of attacking that? It's okay to come in and say, hey, I'm not a master of this, but this is how I'm going to get there. Having plans for everything, I think, is a key strategy.
Yeah, that's a good. Yesterday, it's so funny you brought that up. Yesterday, I got a call from one of our clients who's offering a position to one of the vets, and I said, "Oh, what do you like about him?" She goes, "He just didn't BS me. He was just telling it like it was. He was genuine. It wasn't like trying to sugarcoat things because people you see through all that bullshit. You're like, come on, don't tell me you don't have a weakness, So,
and I love our global leader of my organization in HR. First time I met him, it was like speaking to a best friend. Like, it was just such a breath of fresh air. Like, no BS. I'm like, hey, this is what I can do. This is what I can't do. I just love that kind of open dialogue.
That's great. Do you do a lot of like phone interviews first or video interviews like this, or do you jump right into an in-person?
It depends on the positions. So we have manufacturing, and then we have our corporate headquarters in San Diego. So a lot of times we've had open houses at our manufacturing plant in Dayton, which is brand new. We do phone screens, we do Skype interviews. It's really a case-to-case basis on where the position is. We have a remote sales force, so pretty much across the country and even international. So if I'm interviewing, an international candidate, I'd be doing a Skype. If they're on site in either San Diego or Dayton, it would be a more formalized interview of, a panel of 4 or 5 people that are key opinion leaders, things like that.
Gotcha. Talk about briefly, because you mentioned earlier about being prepared for that interview. What are some tips you would recommend to someone how to go about researching the company? Like, what do you want to hear from them when they're in that interview?
Absolutely. The more engaging I find candidates, the better. So it's okay to be passive to an extent, but after that initial phone interview, if we're setting up another interview, we want you to be more thorough in your research about the company, about the position itself. I mean, certainly reviewing the job description and matching your skills to the job description is interviewing 101. But what do you know about the company? What do you know about our year-over-year growth? What do you know about the companies we've acquired, our latest news, what sets us apart from the competition? This is, nationwide, company-wide, what I would recommend to veterans. Our company, obviously we're a niche spinal implant company, but what do you know about our competitors? What do you know about, our, kind of state of the union, if you will? Those are things that I get really excited to hear from candidates when they say, hey, I saw this about your company or saw that. That's what sets them apart from somebody who's they just test the waters for too long.
Right, right. And it's so easy to do that research. I mean, it's all out there on the internet for you. But when somebody, I'm sure you've had these situations where you're interviewing someone and you say, oh, tell me about NuVasive. What do you know? And they're like, not much. I don't know. I did a little bit of research. It's didn't it leave such a bad taste in your mouth? Like, come on.
It does. If you don't come with prepared, well-thought questions,
right,
veteran or not, you usually get pushed down the pile.
Yeah, rejected. Good advice, man. Listen, tell people how, if a veteran out there is listening and you want to learn more about NuVasive, you want to apply, what are some of the things they can do to?
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. NuVasive, like I said, we are a global company. We're the 3rd largest spinal implant company in the world, and one of the things about us, if you do your research, is we're the only spine-focused company in the top 5. So that is all we do is spine, which is really phenomenal to be where we are today.
Very rewarding work, to be able to help people, get their lives back. That's awesome. So how can someone, is there a career board or?
If you just go to our website, which is NuVasive.com, which is NuVasive.com, we have a careers page, which is constantly updating. There are positions, there are talent communities, there's outreach events. I mean, everything you could possibly imagine is on our website. And I would certainly recommend all veterans, apply to any position they think they could even be a remote fit for.
That's awesome. Can I share your LinkedIn address with people if anyone has any specific questions, whether about NuVasive or about just advice, more advice from you?
I'm available 24/7 to help the veteran community in any way I can.
That's awesome. Well, hey, Toby, thank you so much. This was great advice. And please check out NuVasive. It's an awesome company. And I know Toby will take care of you and do whatever he can to help you.